All right. Think we're showing up live. It always takes a couple minutes, but welcome anyone who is joining us already. We are so excited to share this with you today. So I'm Cori Wamsley, CEO of Aurora Borealis Publishing. I'm a writing coach, and I help leaders with their transformational stories, their soul books, the ones that they want to use as their legacy, because they are getting the word out about their personal story and helping other people get through their own challenges a little bit easier, and with that hope that you have, to be able to actually get through that challenge. So I love being able to help people with that. I'm also an author of 10 books, and I work mostly with fiction that focuses on women doing the same sort of thing, going through these challenges and coming out stronger on the other side. I'm the author of the Soul Sisterhood series. And today I have Heidi Parr Kerner, one of my colleagues, with me. And I'm very excited for the two of us to talk to you today because we have some really cool stuff. So you are in the right spot if you either don't have a book, or you don't have a talk, or you don't have either one and you don't know how to begin, but you're a leader and you really want to get your message out there. So Heidi and I have partnered together because we've worked together in the past. I actually helped her with her book,
Mhm.
and she works with some of my clients on getting their talk pulled together and being able to, have better presentation skills, whether they're working on their talk or podcasts or any of that kind of cool stuff. So we thought it would be fantastic. We got together and talked about the page and the stage together. So I'm going to let Heidi introduce herself and tell you a little bit more about what we're discussing today.
Great. Thank you, Corey. I'm so excited to be here. Hello, everybody. Put a hello in the comments below so I know that you're here. And I actually approached Corey. Corey is my publisher for my first book and got to know her and her team. And they made it so seamless to create a book. So I said to Corey, you know what? There's so many people out there that have a whispering in their soul that says, I know I should be writing a book. I know I should be writing a book. This was my whole life. For 30 years, I've been in the industry. I'm a professional speaker, and I kept saying and knowing, I need to write a book. I need to write a book. It took me forever to do it, and I'm so glad that I did. But I find all the time with my clients, with my women's group, the Coffee Club Divas, many of you have worked with Corey. You're stepping into writing your first book, which is great. But there's others of you that say, oh, I have a story to tell. How can I get it out there? So we're like, well, why are we not double dipping? Because Corey has a team and a step-by-step process to help you create that book so that you can be out there. And I am the speaker coach. Because guess what happens when you have a book? All of a sudden, you're famous and everybody wants you. But we don't always have the language behind it. So, for example, one of the things, and Corey knows this, I know this, that all of a sudden there's well, I'm getting already into the steps, but the reality is the steps of doing a podcast, like Corey mentioned. But then, how are you talking on the podcast? Are you just saying, my book is about, and then we start yawning? I teach you how to have that hook, how to pull people in, how to have that charisma, how to have your talking points down. So, writing was not easy for me. I needed help. But what I'm finding, and with many of Corey's clients that I'm working with, they did, but the speaking was hard. So we're like, let's double dip. It all needs to come together. And we're excited to go over our 5 reasons why. So I'm going to throw the baton back at you, Corey.
Awesome. Yeah. So first, we're going to cover the 5 reasons why you need to speak and publish a book. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how you can do both of those pieces. We're not going to overwhelm you with tons of stuff today, but just a little bit so you can kind of get started and understand what the process is. So the first reason you need to speak
Mhm.
and to publish your book is to keep the audience warm. And what do I mean by that? You're not throwing blankets at them. You are keeping them in your world and keeping them connected with you. That is a warm audience. So once they've kind of come into your world, maybe that's through a talk or a book, or maybe it's through social media or through your coaching. You have all these different entry points into your world. And then doing either a talk or a book, if you don't have one, but you have the other, or both, doing those things keeps that audience connected with you. It helps them understand what you're all about. And kind of keeps them in that inner circle, because the more connections, the more touch points you have with somebody, the more they want to be around you. Once someone likes you, they really start to like you. They want to stay connected. You're familiar and comfortable, and you've got all this great stuff to be sharing. So why not share more and share more and share more? Because you are also building that trust with them. Go ahead, Heidi, with the second one.
Well, first of all, I love that. The warm, keeping the audience warm. That is so great. So one of the second reasons that I found to be true is once you have a book, and whether it's perceived or not, you're seen as the expert. There's a credibility that happens. And again, I've been doing this work for 30 years. So I'm certified, I have my degrees, I have the wonderful clients, name recognition. But it's amazing to me, just in the last year since I have the published book, the speaking engagements that I'm getting, the open opportunities, magazines contacting me, different podcasts. It's opening up a whole new world for me because of my book, which I should be having right in front of me, which I'll get in a moment. I should be showing it up, right? That's just one thing that we
Yes.
do. But yes, it's so the credibility and expertise, you are seen instantly when you have the book, which again will drive you to more opportunities, more clients, and referrals. Cori.
Absolutely. So number three is it reinforces concepts. So
Mm-hmm.
let's say, for example, I was a speaker to start with, and I worked with Heidi, got my speech all polished. I'm up on stage. I'm talking about these different things that really matter to me. Whatever my passion project is. Well, then once once I have a book, then the person who has just seen me on stage would say, "All right, I'd love to get a copy of this book." They would read the book, and it's a little bit of repeating, but it's also telling it in a different way. And it's adding to it, because you only have so much time when you're on stage. So you can't address all these different things. But with a book, you can give it a little more detail. You can talk about some concepts that are related to what you were discussing on stage. You can tell a different story in the book to reinforce the concepts too. So we all learn by repetition, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. We all need to hear things a couple times. And sometimes hearing it and then reading it really helps it sink in.
Hold on. I have to get my book. I'm serious.
So while Heidi's grabbing her book, while we're going over these concepts, go ahead and tell us what rings true with you. We've already given you three. We got two more. And
Yes,
Heidi
do we
has
have some people there? Can you read their comments while there any questions yet?
nothing yet, but
Okay.
we're watching for your comments.
If we want, and even in the replay, we'll be looking over them.
Mhm.
So my tip number 4 is it's okay to make money. Now, not to say this beautiful book is not necessarily the money maker, it's where the opportunities are bringing me. I have been, again, at my ripe, seasoned season, knocking on doors for certain places. Now I'm getting the keynotes. Now I'm getting the money that I always knew was out there. And as much as I tried to razzle dazzle them, it was the book that I'm running book clubs now. So again, it's okay. And the clients perceive you as the expert. So that's where the money comes in. And that's a part of it. It's twofold. We want to make an impact. We want to inspire. That's what my book is all about, inspiration. However, it's all about also taking us to the next level. And those are the opportunities are there. But the opportunity where I come in is with the speaking piece, is that we need to match the book and to be able to verbalize our stories. Because these are some of the mistakes that I see people do, that they're like so excited, they get on a podcast and I listen and oh, I thought you were cringing. I start
No,
cringing.
my phone fell over.
That was a perfect timing though, because you like cringe. And I'm like, they dance around the mulberry bush, right?
Yeah.
You haven't been trained by a speaker. They go on and on and on. They're not making their point. you know what, we're in a society right now, you've got to grab them right away. You've got to grab their attention. There's a way to communicate. There's a way to write a talk. There's a way to present on a podcast. Those are essential pieces to have both the writing and the speaking. They go hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you covered all of that in the money-making piece, because I think that's a misconception that people have, is that they can just have this talk and that's it. Or they can just have the book and, oh, the book's going to sell and I'm going to get tons and tons and tons of
Right.
money from that. These are pieces of your business and they work together. Just like if you have a website or a podcast or any of those are pieces that need to work together. And it goes back to the credibility and warming up your audience and all of that good stuff. So I'm glad we brought that up.
Yeah.
And for number 5, so this is our 5th reason why you need to have a book and a talk. If you have one, it makes creating the other so much easier because
Mhm.
you've already figured out things that, hone it in for that very specific person you want to reach. So that's already done. That's an easy step to get out of the way. Plus, let's say you have your book done first. Maybe you're looking at like chapter 4 and you're thinking, I could really do a talk on this. This is something I can really reach people with. It's exciting for me to discuss. So many people go through this challenge. They're always wrestling with this problem. Why don't I take part of this and use it to inspire my talk? So then your talk and your book dovetail. So if someone's reading the book and they see that, you might say at the end of chapter 4, by the way, I have a talk on this. Or, at the end of the book, you can say, I offer talks on XYZ. Then people would see that and go, oh my God, I have to hire Heidi to come in and talk to my group about this. This would be fantastic. So that is working as part of the book. They dovetail. And it goes the other way around too. If someone's listening to your talk, they know they're going to be able to get more from that book.
Right. I love that. You can't give everything away. But again, I even work with seasoned speaker though that they want to polish. So say somebody, I have a client right now who's out there, they're comfortable, they're confident speaking, they're not nervous, anything like that, but it's still the polish. And it's still making sure that you're on point and pulling people in. It's a skill. Unless you went to speaker school, you
Mhm.
wouldn't know. So these are the pieces again that we want to bring to the table, that if you have the book or even if you've been out there speaking, as speakers, we all know I've been doing this for 30 years. We could always do better. We're always learning. We're always practicing. We're always perfecting. So these are the areas to think about. And also when you're speaking, how do you quietly sell yourself? We don't want to be salesy, but how do we quietly sell? There's a psychology to it. But it's again, like Cori said, it's not as hard as you might think. And the speaking, but it's getting a guide, it's getting a coach. And that's where Cori and her team coached me. And that's where I coach my clients so that you can take your speaking to the next level and have your book being the expert and being credible.
I love that. So we don't have any comments yet, but if you do have questions, make sure you're dropping them in the comments. Heidi and I are happy to answer these. If you want to take a second and just tell us which of those 5 was really resonating with you, we'd love to hear that. Again, that was keeping the audience warm, credibility and expertise, reinforcing concepts, making money, and if you have one, making the other is easy.
And I'd like to interrupt you for 1 second to say, also, I'd love to hear the comments, one, if it's a replay, which is fine, but also, do you have the talk that you need to up level? Do you have the book, but you don't know how to speak about it? Are you interested in writing a book for the first time? Kind of where you are in the scale of books and speaking and where you feel you might need some extra coaching or support.
Yeah, I would love to hear that too. Yeah, so definitely drop your comments and we'll be sure to answer them. So I want to move on to the next section now, which is how you can easily write your book. And these are just the 3 essentials to start writing your book, because yes, there are a lot of steps, but a lot of times the hardest part is getting started. So I want to help you with that piece. So number 1, the first one is figuring out who your audience is. And a lot of times this is going to overlap with who your business audience is, but sometimes it can be a certain portion because you have to figure out who you're talking to So you're actually speaking to that person.
Mhm.
Sometimes I actually like to create like an avatar for, whatever it is that I'm creating, whether it's a book or a lead magnet or a video or whatever. I like to say, okay, this is the person, this is what they're looking for, this is who they are. And I know we've all done those marketing exercises where you write down like how old they are and what, where they live and what toothpaste they use. But I don't find that that's going to be helpful for every single person out there. So instead, the question I want you to ask is, what problem am I solving for my audience?
Mhm.
Because if you're looking at a specific challenge, you're looking at all those people who have that challenge. And that could be men, women, older, younger, people living in the city, people living in the country, like all different demographics, but they are all dealing with one specific challenge. So instead, look at that and use that to figure out who your audience is. Next, second one, I want you to look at your purpose. And this is what you want the audience to get out of the book, what challenge you're solving for them. And I know some books are out there that I don't like them, but they're written almost like it's a long sales page. And
Mhm.
nobody wants to read through this long sales page like, oh, you've got these great stories. You do okay, but how do I get this, solved? What can I do? I've been wrestling with this problem and I want it, knocked out. You want to make sure you're giving them a win, a small win, a big win, something that is going to get them to the next piece of the puzzle. Now, your book may very well solve the problem and they go, oh my God, that was awesome. I'm going to stay in her world or his world, but the book was enough for me. But
Mhm.
in some cases, the book is going to lead to more. And you want to make sure that it is an obvious piece of your specific puzzle, whatever it is that you're doing in your business. I talked to somebody once who referred to it as where the person is coming in on the ladder. So if you have somebody, you have your ladder here and you work with people at this midpoint where they've already, gone through some of the stuff and they're
Mhm.
up here and they're like, all right, I'm ready to work for you, work with you. You don't want to come in down here with your book unless you're getting them up to this point. If you're down here and you're like, all right, here we go, then that person's not going to be ready to work with you. So you want
Mhm.
to make sure that you're getting them to that point, getting them that win. Enjoy my arm. Getting them to that win where they can actually come into your world then. So that's your purpose. And you do want them to stay in your world. So always remember that you have a personal purpose for that book too.
Mhm.
And then finally, my third thing is an outline to make it super simple. And this is a method that I actually teach when I'm working with my clients, but to make it easy for you guys, when you are creating your outline, you do have to think about, who it is you're talking to, what purpose you want to get to, and what are the different pieces that lead them to that purpose. You're creating basically a story arc, even if it's not your traditional story arc, like when you read a fiction book or watch a movie. This is
Mhm.
something that you are getting people through the different challenges and getting them down here to that win. So you do have to plan it out. And as somebody who wrote their first book by just sitting down and staring at the screen and winging it and trying to get through it and hating the whole thing and rewriting the whole book after working with an editor, trust me, you don't want to do that. You want to have a plan to begin with. It's just the same as like if you are going to clean your house and you walk in and you're like, oh my God, it's a mess in here. What am I going to do? You don't just start wandering into a room and go, well, I'll put away the clothes in my bedroom. I'm going to go clean the toilet. Maybe I'll do the dishes. You focus on one thing and you take care of that one thing. What I find to work the best is focus on one room. So when you're writing your book, working through that outline, you're focusing on one chapter, one room of the house. So you'll go through that chapter and then you'll go through the second chapter and you'll go through the third chapter. It makes it so much easier when you are working with an outline. And I think I might have lost Heidi. She's frozen. I did lose Heidi. So I'm just going to talk for another minute. Hopefully she'll pop back on here. But these are the simple pieces that I like to teach for writing your book because you have to have that plan. Sitting down and having no plan means that you're going to be staring at a blinking cursor. And when you're staring at a blank page, the blinking cursor, trust me, you're not going to be able to write the book. You're just going to come up with absolutely nothing. Um, Heidi says her electric went out. So we're going to see if she can join us. some other way. I'm gonna keep talking. She just texted me. Okay. So hopefully she'll be able to pop back on. Um, Gotta love tech, right? Um, yeah, so just a little bit of my background and telling you this funny story of how I got started writing books. I wrote my first book in 2004. So it was for a class in grad school. I was inspired to write a book. And as I was working through the book, I was thinking in my head, I've read lots of books, surely I can write it. But thinking like that is about like thinking, I could be a professional chef because I've eaten a lot of meals. It really doesn't make sense. You have a lot of ideas, but you haven't had that professional training on it. Now, I was working on a master's degree in English, so I did know a lot about book structure and themes and what kind of things go into a really good book and what makes it a solid book to read, but I hadn't had that experience of walking through the book process. So when I first started writing a book, I had all these ideas in my head, and I thought, I'm just going to sit down and start writing those first chapters. And I actually did it like I was in college. So like middle of the night, just staying up late, super excited. And I banged out 3 chapters that first night. But when I read them later, I realized that they weren't going anywhere. And it's because I hadn't sat down and thought about my audience and my purpose. I thought about the audience a little bit. So I knew like who I wanted to read the book, but I didn't understand really what the plot was going to be doing. I didn't understand where I was going or what when I wanted my characters, because it was fiction. When I wanted my characters to get out of this book. So when I was writing it, it had no purpose. I ended up kind of writing myself into a corner. Um, Once I got through those first 3 chapters, I found that it was really frustrating to keep going because there was no plan. And when I started on my second book, and this was the second book in that series, I had a way better idea of what I was going to do. And what I ended up starting with was an outline. I sat down and thought, what is it that I want to happen in this book? And this is the same sort of thing that you would do with your own book. What do I want to happen in this book? Who do I want to be reading it? Excuse me. How can I get them from point A to point B? I was doing it with characters in my fiction books, but you're going to be doing this with a reader if you're doing that in a nonfiction book. And it makes it super simple once you have that outline. So Heidi hasn't joined us yet. We're gonna give her another minute and see what happens, because I do want to keep this under half an hour. Um, so I was going to actually answer a couple questions real quick while we're waiting. One of the questions was about finding a publisher versus self-publishing. And I get this question a lot. What I always tell people is you will find that there are pros and cons with everything, right? So if you're looking at, okay, Heidi's still trying to get back on. So if you're looking at finding a publisher, which usually people consider like traditional publishing, there's also hybrid, which is what we do, and self-publishing. There's 3 different ways. And let's see, any tips about what to look for? Okay, so if you are looking at picking out a publisher, what I recommend is consider what the pros and cons are and consider what's going to work for you. Because there are different degrees of, what you have to fund, what you get control over, um, the marketing, all of that kind of stuff. Hybrid publishers are going to offer a variety of different things. And I always recommend making sure that your hybrid publisher has editing and cover design on staff. If they don't have editing on staff, I get very confused about how they are keeping any sort of quality control on the book, because the whole book production process really is what makes your book look professional. And I don't see a real point to working with a hybrid publisher that's going to just create, print the book for you. That's more like a vanity press. When you're looking at traditional publishers, which is like the big 5 in New York, If you're looking at that sort of thing, always make sure that you have some say. It is very hard to have a lot of say with a book like that because they are covering the cost. So essentially, you're like writing a book for them, and then they are doing the distribution and usually a little bit of marketing. And it depends on who you are. If you're a big name, like if you're James Patterson, which I don't think he's watching this, but if you're James Patterson, your publisher's going to do a lot of marketing around that because you have a well-known name. So you're going to have easy pull. It's low-hanging fruit. If you are not as famous, which is most of us, then a traditional publisher isn't going to do much marketing on that book, and they will expect you to come in with some sort of a marketing plan. With hybrid publishing, again, have some sort of a marketing plan because they usually have a smaller budget for the marketing and PR and all of that kind of stuff. So there's not going to be as much of a reach, which is why I always focus on how you can connect the book with everything else that you're doing, because that's where you're really going to make an impact. You're going to be able to connect the book with pitching speaking engagements, connect the speaking engagements with getting clients, or connect the book with getting clients. And really, that's the whole point of having these pieces, is that they all work together. Just as an example, with my own book, this was several years ago, I had a conference that I attended, and I was asked if I wanted to donate something for the swag bags. There were 10 VIPs who had purchased their VIP tickets, and a swag bag came with that. So rather than giving a like pamphlet or just a flyer about my business, I gave a book, and it was my book, The Spark Method on How to Write a Book Fast. And I actually got clients from that. It was a very cheap, easy give. And I don't mean cheap like it's not made well. It's like inexpensive. When you are the author and you're publishing your book, it makes it very easy for you to do that. So just from that, I was able to sign a 4-digit package off of one of those books. So it was a really easy advertising venue for me. So that's a little bit about the publishing and self-publishing and all that kind of stuff. Of course, with self-publishing, you're footing the bill, you're doing the marketing, you're doing all the legwork. So you really have to decide where you want to come in on that ladder, and how much work and all that kind of stuff that you want to do. The last question I had was how to use AI to write our books. And as I was talking about the outline, that is the perfect way to use AI for your book. You actually cannot copyright a book that was written by AI and have that copyright actually protect the book, because the AI wrote the book. So you can't actually claim copyright. I would say don't get into a sticky situation with that, because you don't want the AI company later down the road to come back and say, you know what, we wrote all these books and we're claiming copyright. So that means we get royalties. I just would not get into a sticky situation. So if you like AI, I would say use it for ideas, for outlining, but definitely not to write your book. That needs to come from you and from your heart. I'm going to have Heidi pop back in. She just joined us, and we'll let her go ahead and share about talks. So once she pops back in here, she'll be here in just a second. And make sure you stick around after Heidi talks about the 3 pieces you need for talks, because we have a special offer for you guys that's coming up in September. I'm going to go ahead and give just a little bit while we're waiting on her. This is going to be a special event that Heidi and I are doing. It's a workshop coming up on September 20th. So make sure you stick around for a minute afterwards, because we're going to tell you.
Am I back?
Yay!
Oh my God, that was so much work. But you know what? I was just being so inspired by everything you said. So I just floated around the world for a little while. I took a little break.
Well, we're glad
Corey, you
you're
did
back.
such a good job. I didn't know about the AI thing. So I was listening. So I mean, this is like the worst nightmare, right? But as a speaker, these things happen. You just go with the flow. So
Yeah.
I know you're going to talk about the workshop, but if we have a minute, I could just tie up my 3 pieces and write the book, write my whatever I'm writing.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead and give the 3 pieces for the talk, and then we'll give the details about the
Or the
event.
workshop. Phew. Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I need to come back and get centered. So, as Cori was saying, she had 3 bullets on writing the book. I have 3 bullets on what you need to create your talk. And number 1 is a strong opening. So again, if I just got up there, hi everybody, I'm Heidi Parr Kerner. I'm a speech coach. I can help you with any kind of talk that you have coming up. I've worked with somebody. We start tuning out. You've got to pull in the audience. That's an art. That's a craft. So you need to have a hook to pull in the audience. That's number 1. Number 2, you need the body of the talk. Here's the other thing that I find that so many people do. They give too much information because they want the audience from a loving place to have everything they need. However, the audience can't take it in. So we're going from point to point to point to point to point. It's too much. So the rule as a speaker is you only want to have 1 or 2 main points, and then you support the points with stories, with examples, with props. But you can't give away the store. So you need a coach or somebody to discern what's important and what's not, because the audience can't take it in. And the third piece that, again, I see so many speakers, professional speakers, get up there and they're like, okay, that's it. Or do you have any questions? Or bye. That's not the call to action. The word that I love that Cori uses, you warm up the audience. So with the audience is warmed up, they want something from you. What are you selling, or what's the action? What's the challenge that you're going to have them take? Or you're going to say to them, okay, buy my book, sign up for my seminar. There has to be a call to action instead of just goodbye. Otherwise, why are we doing this? So these are the sales concepts, the speaking concepts that most people don't know about. So that's it in a nutshell. But there's more that Cori's gonna tell you about regarding. We have an upcoming workshop customized with you in mind.
Yeah. So everything that we talked about today, of course, was kind of scratching the surface. So Heidi and I wanted to offer something that's a deeper dive. And this is something we're going to cap at 10 participants. It's a 90-minute workshop coming up on September 20th. And we're going to each kind of split it, but the nice thing about this is because Heidi talks about the stage and I talk about the page, and we love when people do these things together, you're going to have both of us on this workshop. So you can learn about, if you already have a talk, hey, how can I work on this on a book? And this is the time for us to dive in and give you some of our, more attention. So on the 20th, Heidi's going to be covering her piece. I'm going to talk about write your damn book, the 3 steps to kickstart your first or your next book. And what that's going to cover is not just the audience, the purpose, and the outline, but diving deeper into that outline, some of the different pieces from your actual story, not just the generic examples I'm giving, your actual story that is going to help connect. And I'm going to give time to all the participants where I'm talking to you and finding out about this stuff, so I can help you kind of hone that outline, because once you have an outline, you really can take off with that book. Heidi, you want to talk about what you're going to cover?
Yes, I have an outline. And by the way, Cori, I have to say, you always have these little ditties, and I had never heard from stage to page, the page to stage. I like that. Did you just
Yeah.
make that up, or did you have that? Was that always?
I heard it somewhere, but I don't remember where it was, and it works so well for us.
It does. It's perfect. That's going to be our next title. I love it. So my piece is I'm going to share the 10 ingredients that you absolutely need in your talk. And the talk I like creating, it's called in the speaker world a signature talk. And a signature talk is 20 to 25 minutes to showcase you, to showcase your topic, to showcase your book if you have one, or even if you don't, to showcase your business, your services, your message. 10 ingredients, and a couple of those, again, your opening, your close, the body of your talk, how to share a story, how to use your body language. So after this 90-minute talk, you will have a talk in place. Yes, it needs to be practiced, but you will have an outline, like Cori had said for hers, 80% done. So you'll be able to have a talk that you can take on the road. So we'd like to get it done. We like
Yes.
to get it done. We're giving away the store.
Yeah. There you go. And of course, we will make sure that you have something that will work together. Like I said, this is 90 minutes. It's on Friday, September 20th. It's just $47. So if you are considering this, you are welcome to DM us if you have questions, or you can comment below. I'm in. I'm going to drop the Venmo link for you so you can just go ahead and pay. If you pay and you're in, awesome. Like I said, there's 10 spots, so these spots will go fast. And you do get some personal attention from us during this time. So it is going to be a wonderful hour and a half of honed in, focused on your work.
I'm excited. Just again, to me, it's right after Labor Day. That's why we wanted to do this. It's like back to school, back to business. Was this a goal this year for you? We only have a few months left. So to create a healthy pressure, a healthy urgency, you can have a talk. And I know that you can get started with your book between now and the end of the year. So let's get started. Let's play bigger. I'm excited to collaborate once again with Cori, and we'll see you on the 20th.
Yes, don't forget, comment below. I'm in. DM us if you have questions, or go ahead and Venmo me and reserve your spot. We will see you there.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.